Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, dealing with some real work issues, I guess, around these parts at time. With that being said, we have the best in the business with Winston Jackson II, as well as AD Drew. So we're going to be able to give you a dynamic show. With that being said, welcome to episode 741 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash by all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to Case-Way 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let's bring everybody on board. As we're doing that, I will say today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. I wonder what has Charles so excited and happy today. And he hide that big old grin. What's going on, Charles? Let me go to you first.
Yeah, well, I guess Jackson State alumni, they're sending me their tailgating opportunities this weekend and whatnot. Maybe it's a big game going on in Jackson. I don't know.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Be a big game going in there. With that being said, how else are you doing?
Doing well, Doc. I got my students. They'll be tuning in at some point, but they're checking in via email now in terms of a lot of stuff that they're doing, keeping up with the road to the Celebration Bowl. That's one of our projects going forward here. So they're keeping up with what's going on in the SWAC on the East and West, as well as what's going on in the MEAC. So.
Yeah, it's coming down to that point where it's time to get nice and nasty, as they might say, separating the wheat from the chaff. Somebody is going to get the chance to play for a championship in the SWAC. We're coming down the stretch. It looks like we will have a couple of championship games on the line, starting with the semifinal matchup, if you would have it like that, basically tomorrow, Friday night. I'll get a chance to be at that game live. I'm scheduled to be in there unless the fights won't let me be good. You know, we're still in a question mark with all that going on, although it seems like we're supposed to be moving forward. We'll see if that's really the case. But based on that thought, let me go to AD Drew and see how AD Drew is doing today. We missed you on Tuesday, Drew. Sound like you were putting in a little work. How did things go?
96-80 on the good side for us Tuesday night. Yeah, but I am a little bit upset at my basketball team. I told my coach this.
You didn't get 100.
I told the players this, yes, because we had 93 points with 3 minutes to go.
Oh yeah.
So nice. I'm over here, and now, oh crap! When the last time we scored 100 points? So I'm going into the archive on my phone, nice. Right there on the side. You know, took me about a minute to find out when the last time we scored 100 points, which was 2018, November 7th, 28, November 18th, 2018, and against Fisk, 115 to 45. And as soon as I get this and give this a shout out to Simone Stanley and Slide the Sports guy, Sylvester Williams, for handling the play-by-play in color. But I hand them the note. but about 2.5 minutes ago.
Ready to
When
go.
you heard what I said, the final score was 96. So I went there, I was like, that's the last time I do research for y'all in the middle of a game, and then it winds up being a useless trivia stat because y'all don't get to the point that I need y'all to get to.
At least you have it in your back pocket now.
I got it in my back pocket now.
You're prepared. Good stuff. Good comments to open things up in terms of the real life of these HBCU and sport administrators, fans out here calling games, writing papers, and doing the stats. Boy, I tell you, it's hard to get folks that really are in the game versus just talking about it. And that's not saying that other folks shouldn't have opinions either, but it's a unique perspective. With that being said, let me go to the third man on the list. Not the last, but getting it done is Wilson.
Yep. No, like Doc, I'm glad to be on the show, man. Like, it's good to hear AD talking about basketball because, like I said, some of these teams should have been talking about basketball a couple weeks ago. Now that we actually have basketball going, and just hearing Morehouse almost getting to 100 points, I actually hope they get that, them 100 points again sometime this season, which they probably will. But no, it's just good. It's good to be back, man. We got some championship games this weekend, and then we got some real strong SWAC implications to take care of this weekend. Some separation going on, obviously, as we get closer to that first weekend of December for SWAC championship weekend. And of course, MEAC implications on the table as well.
Yeah, since you're talking a little bit basketball, quick trivia, and I hadn't took a deep dive, so this may be a little bit off, but at least two of the games I know. You had Grambling at Howard. Grambling got it done. You had North Carolina A&T hosting South Carolina State, and T got it done. So MEAC is 0-2 against their D1 HBCU opponents. So be interesting to see if we can continue to kind of follow that and see what that means. Because the Independent is 1-0 and the SWAC is 1-0 when it comes against the MEAC, that is, at least. But that being said, let's get into some news of the day. Go back to you, Charles. What's on your mind in terms of the news of the day? What direction you want to go?
Yeah, let's start off and let's talk about the SWAC Players of the Week from football. That's the SWAC Tab Purviews, Cameron Peters, Grambling State's Marcellus Johnson, and Hayden Benoit, along with Alabama State's Nehemiah Hickson for the SWAC Football Weekly Honors. Let's take a look at the Offensive Player of the Week. Cameron Peters turned in a career performance to lead the Panthers to a dominant 48-5 road victory over Alabama A&M. He was impressive through the air, completing 17 of 22 passes for 394 yards and 5 touchdowns with no interceptions. Peters averaged an impressive 23.2 yards per completion while connecting on a long strike of 56 yards. Defensive Player of the Week was Marcellus Johnson. He racked up 9 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery in Grambling's win over Bethune-Cookman. The specialist of the week was Nehemiah Hickson. Hickson had a 99-yard kickoff return that swung the momentum back to Alabama State as they grabbed a 14-10 lead in the first quarter. He returned 3 kickoffs for 125 yards in the game as Alabama State defeated Texas Southern 42-24. And then the newcomer of the week is Hayden Benoit, the true freshman from Grambling. He threw for 220 yards and 4 touchdowns on 12 of 20 passing in his first collegiate start to help Grambling defeat Bethune-Cookman. So those are your SWAC Players of the Week.
Good stuff. Shout out to the SWAC Players of the Week. Man, Cam, boy, you talking about going from the outhouse to the in-house. National, not only conference, but regional and HBCU and national Player of the Week. Great job for Cam in terms of dusting himself off and finding a way to get it done, representing for the conference as well. Let me go to you, Wilton. What's on your mind?
I'm going to give the MEAC Players of the Week. We're going to start with North Carolina Central quarterback Walker Harris. He was named the Offensive Player of the Week. South Carolina State's Jared Washington was named the Defensive Player of the Week, and Roger Smith was the Offensive Lineman of the Week, and Morgan State's Randall Naughton was the Rookie of the Week, while North Carolina Central's Caleb Robinson was the Specialist of the Week. Walker Harris surpassed the 2,500-yard mark for the season after throwing for 265 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 31-28 win versus Norfolk State. Harris completed 24 of 39 passes and notched his 4th game this season with 3 or more touchdown passes. Gerard Washington led the Bulldogs defense with a standout performance. He scored 2 defensive touchdowns in the 42-12 win against Howard. He returned a fumble for 77 yards for a touchdown and added a 27-yard interception return for another score. Washington also recorded 4 solo tackles and 5 pass breakups. Randall Nodden rushed for 104 yards on 7 carries, including a 67-yard touchdown run and a strong outing against Delaware State. When you talk about the specialists of the week, you're looking at Caleb Robinson, connected on field goals of 32, 26, and career-long 48 yards, while also finishing 4 for 4 on PAT attempts. He accounted for 13 points in North Carolina Central's win against Norfolk State.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let me go to you, AD Drew. Before I do that, let me give shout-outs to the MEAC. Kudos to all those players getting it done. Coaches representing as well, allowing the players to do that. Let me go to AD Drew. What's on your mind?
Dr. Cavil, I am so glad you saved me for last because I've got it. We're not doing the news of the day. I have an editorial that I am going to do for my segment. As you may have heard, Kentucky State and Delta State are having some chatter, some beef on social media, in traditional media, and in a few other places. This goes to Kentucky State pulling out of a game that was scheduled for this upcoming Saturday. Delta State knew when they scheduled an SIAC opponent for week 11 that there was always the possibility that the SIAC opponent, number one, could be playing in the SIAC championship. Number two, due to the agreement between the Conference Carolinas and the SIAC, could be playing in a matchup against the Conference Carolinas. Now, despite what the coach for Delta State has put out,
right?
Kentucky State informed Delta State over a month ago that there was a chance that the game this Saturday would not be played. And if you don't believe that Delta State did not know that the game would not be played, why in the heck would you move your senior day from this Saturday to 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago if you thought the game was going to be played? Yeah. So despite what Delta State putting out there, they had a 90% chance, 90% chance that this game was probably not going to be played. Now, when Delta State scheduled Kentucky State, did they expect Kentucky State to be this good? Of course not. Mm. Hell, didn't nobody in the SIAC expect them to be this good? Mm-hmm. So,
very true.
Kudos to Coach Felton Huggins at Kentucky State for creating this problem by winning some doggone ball games. Mm. If he don't win ball games, we have no controversy. But for Delta State, Gulf South Conference, to put out the narrative that they have put out, yes, I'm buttering my bread right now, and it's hot butter on burnt toast because y'all have gotten me upset out there, Delta State. Them folk, that's your state, Charles, not my state. You from Mississippi, not me. But anyway,
and I ain't got no ties to Delta State.
He said, "Put him under the bus, run him." He said, "Run him."
No, actually, one of my former student athletes played receive at Delta State. So, but for y'all to shine this light on my conference and HBCU conference,
right?
I do not appreciate. I don't appreciate it. The false narrative coming out of. Dang, is he even a real journalist anymore, Charles? Do the journalists who's been putting out this stuff even have a job anymore? I'm just asking. I don't know what outlet he works for. He doesn't work for a TV station. He doesn't work for a newspaper. But you spreading all this stuff on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and everything else. Number two, Delta State. If you'd have handled your own doggone business, you would have the number of wins that you need to have And this game, you probably would have canceled this game because you would have been afraid that you would have needed this bye week going into the playoffs. Should have beat Valdosta State last week. Should have beat a couple of those other people. It's not my fault y'all conference only has 4 teams and your strength of schedule has gone south because your conference only has 4 teams. Not my fault. Not my conference's fault. Deal with it. The out clause was in there. The out clause was exercised. So filing petitions with the NCAA and whoever else you need to file, who cares? Georgia and Kentucky State playing. Why would I get on the bus, Dr. Cavil, Charles, and Wilton, and ride 8 hours for a road game when I can host a game this week? Tell me where that math up at. Come on now, y'all.
You got to do
Right.
Come on, y'all. You know, I mean, this. Please, and those of you all who in HBCU media, please help a brother out. Let's spread the other side of their story because they doing a good job spreading their story. As false as it is, I won't even say it's false. They're just pulling out the points that they want to pull out without telling the whole entire truth. Shout out to Dr. Holloman for putting the SIAC in the position where we can have not 1, not 2, but 3 teams in the playoffs. When have we ever done that in any of our conferences? In any of our 4 conferences, have we ever got 3 teams into the playoffs? So, Dr. Anthony Holloman, good job doing this. And if you got to piss off some other people so we can get some teams in the playoffs, continue to piss them off.
Mike,
let's take our first break and come back on the other side. This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU.
College football fans, the Cricket Celebration Bowl is celebrating 10 years of crowning an HBCU national champion. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th as the MEAC and SWAC champions clash in Atlanta. Join us for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit the Celebration Bowl.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop, AD Drew, Wilton Jackson II. It's good to be back. In all seriousness, great points you made there, Drew, in your comments. I put a little stuff out there as you asked media to appropriate put their perspective on this and tell the entire narrative. Certainly a different framework. I've done that. Now we've been able to do it twice on the show. Very appropriate. We even talked about it on Tuesday. As I said, when we went on Tuesday, we talked about the fact that we opened up with the season and told everybody that this was an opportunity. In fact, we had SIAC Commissioner Dr. Holloman on the show to speak about several things that were going on in the SIAC, and he made mention that they created this partnership. So this goes back to the beginning, and if you want to check it out, as they said, you want the receipts, go pull up the shows, and we'll show you the receipts that we gave everybody an opportunity to put that out there then. As Drew said, I'm not sure if any of us, I certainly won't be the one out there that thought it would be Kentucky State. To their credit, they've made it an issue because they've won. I'll close it on this as we start to move forward. We'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that matchup in the last segment, at least acknowledge it. But we're going to move into the major division and provide some updates here in terms of what that looks like. I want to give Stephen Gaither update in terms of the amount of time and energy he's put out in this space of notifying folks and putting out there. He's done a lion's share of work, particularly in them Twitter streets, as they would say, social media, in providing a different context and making sure those folks that purposely misleading folks are not gone unchallenged. So I want to give him a particular shout out in terms of what he's been doing and those other ones that have been holding it down as well. Shout out for you all. But let's get back into some football talk and get into a little more of that and what it looks like and talk about the number one team from our perspective, which is the Alabama State Hornets, 7-2, 5-1. They're at Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils, 1-8, 0-5. Always a difficult place to play, particularly this part of the year, but Alabama State is playing pretty well with the backup quarterback. They come in, as I said, 7-2, 5-1. Delta Devils 1-8, 0-5, trying to find a way to get a conference win. I'm going with you, Charles, first. Is this the game to get that win, or do they continue to look down the schedule?
No, absolutely. Alabama State should get the win. Challenging for Mississippi Valley with regards to not having Josh Brown at quarterback this weekend. They're going to have some depth issues. I think they may have a player or two that decided to redshirt versus going forward with the season. So you have some issues on the Mississippi Valley Delta Devil side. But I think, when you take a look at it, Jamari Holsclaw, Jalen Jones, these guys are going to do what they need to do with regards to getting a win over Valley State.
Good stuff. Great points. Wilton, you feel any difference with this matchup? Is there any way that Valley can get this win, or is it just too much Hornets out there?
I just think it's going to be too much Hornets, and for many of the reasons that Charles just alluded to, and the other running back that I thought he was going to mention that has been prominent in the Hornets rushing attack is Marcus Harris. It's just going to be too much of the Hornets rushing game against Mississippi Valley, and even with a backup quarterback, anytime you have a backup quarterback and you have a strong running game to kind of help you out, it just bodes well for you. And I think this is Alabama State team that's still potentially still trying to find their way into the SWAC championship game should Jackson State find a way to stumble in these next 2 weeks.
Good points by both of y'all. With that being said, Drew, last comments. Anything else on this game that we need to keep our eyes on?
The battle of backup quarterbacks, but Alabama State's QB2 is better than Valley's junior quarterback. So look, Alabama State has.
You're right. It's about between two backups. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, Alabama State has the easier road of the two teams in contention in the East, but so the only thing that you could hope for if you're Valley is Alabama State knows they have the easier road and hope they fall asleep. But I really don't think they will fall asleep not on this game.
Mm-mm.
Let's go to the next one. Unfortunately, part of this game is not going to be just about the matchup, which happens to be 8 versus 2. Bethune-Cookman Wildcats at 5-5, 4-2, and number 2 Jackson State Tigers 7-2, 5-1. Both teams were at 4-1 last week, but Bethune-Cookman lost to Grambling State on the road, which was the least of their worries in a lot of ways because the conference has fined both institutions. When I say both institutions, that is Bethune-Cookman and Grambling. So when we talk about that matchup, we might get in the fact that the suspension, particularly the number of suspensions for Grambling, is quite significant. Not to say that Bethune-Cookman is fighting an uphill battle in terms of having 9 players suspended, while Grambling has 18. That's a total of 27 students. Don't want to go back in terms of what took place. We already discussed that on Sunday. But I did want to make sure that that was acknowledged going in this matchup as you start to talk about it and how that may affect this game. It has 8 players. I haven't got a memo exactly of what those 8 players are. Both schools were also fined, as I said. So the number of fines, for those that may not know by now, was $25,000 for Bethune-Cookman, $40,000 for Grambling. It's funny when you talk about those social media streets. Obviously, people are trying to find a way to wriggle out why they're not happy. Talking about the connection of the athletic director and his alumni. And some people putting out there and don't even know which school he's alumni. Just talking about stuff like, man, let's do a little bit of a homework. And then you got to understand is like, well, he still is married to alumni of the other school that you are referencing. So I'm like, SWAC ties go deep. And halftime, we're happy when we find somebody that is representing the SWAC. Now all of a sudden, you're disgruntled and say the person can't be fair and officiated. And as I recall, the last time Prairie View did this, they were hit with that $25K. I told everybody on Sunday, I said, you don't have to worry about it. This is simple. You just got to figure out the number. Players will be suspended, and each school will get a fine. I said it'll probably start at about $25,000. I was right. It started at 25, and unfortunately for Grambling, it was a little more, certainly because I'm sure of other distinguishing issues that came out, and that this was not the first time in the freeway of why you get that fine. So things escalate when you can't get things under control. So that's part of it too. But enough about all that. Let's get into the game in terms of Bethune-Cookman Wildcats at Jackson State. Credit to Grambling, though, on the field defensively. They shut down what was a very powerful offense that was getting things going. That didn't look like they could be stopped offensively. And to their credit, it seemed like they were getting even better on the defensive side. Grambling said not so fast. They shut things down from a defensive perspective. That's 2 games in a row. With that being said, Jackson State has a pretty formidable defense. Wilton, where are you going with this matchup and why?
I'm going with Jackson State in this game. I think that the suspensions for Bethune-Cookman are probably going to take a toll on the Wildcats coming into this game. They're coming from Florida, coming into Jackson. It's a noon game, even though that's somewhat of a shift for Jackson State as well. But I just think it's going to be too much of Jackson State's running game that's going to help them out. And we've seen basically Jared Lockhart evolve over the last couple of weeks. Of course, he's still a freshman quarterback, still learning the playbook and understanding things. But I think that with the running backs that Jackson State have and as dynamic as they have been, I definitely think it's going to help them out, and I think Jackson State gets this win. I also think that, although they get the win, their defense will be tested, specifically their secondary, because you're talking about Bethune-Cookman have 2 of the top receivers in fact, 2 of the top 6. And so those guys in Jackson State secondary will be tested, but ultimately I think Jackson State gets the win at home.
Yeah, they go in the championship game. That's interesting. That's probably a test that they want to see and certainly want to get done as they try to push forward over the next couple of weeks. Playing an all-quarantine is playing pretty good. And we'll talk about them next before we take our next break, since we're on the Grambling framework and Bethune-Cookman. Grambling takes the road to the Braves, the hot Braves team. But before we get there, let's finish up and go to you, 80 Drew. What are your thoughts on this 2 versus 8 matchup with Bethune-Cookman and Jackson State?
While on paper, Jackson State is the heavy favorite with the fines and suspensions that have come down. But I have to ask the question, everybody. Those 9 players suspended for Bethune-Cookman, are those starters? Are those 2 deep players? Or are those or those the last people who was in the locker room who that was the only time they got their jerseys dirty? So we, like you said, Dr. Cavil, we know there were 9 suspended, but we still do not know which 9, because if Bethune-Cookman has a bulk of its 2 deep available for this game, it could be a more competitive game than people are looking for because of the headline that they have here. So I just want to put that out there as food for thought for everybody. And it's the same thing when we talk about that Grambling game when we get to that one also. But I got to put my orange and green hat on for a minute, Dr. Cavil, and I guess I'm on a roll today. Folks at FAMU are asking a question. A PA announcer goes rogue, gets 2 games and a $10K fine, but you have an all-out melee, and as of right now, all we know of is 1 game. Although the monetary money was more, diarrhea of the mouth is 2 games. Trying to bash somebody's head in is 1 game. So people in orange and green are just asking a simple question. Just put it out there as food for thought.
I think it's a fair question to ask. I do think there's a difference between being disparaging to opponent versus 2 teams fighting each other in regards to the players getting suspended. The other thing that I don't think people realize, and you know this, Drew, in terms of the rules, you throw a fist,
automatic.
Say it again. If you throw a punch, it is what?
Automatic.
Yeah. All right.
Connect or no connect.
Correct.
And I do have
anybody they saw with the fist, by definition, the conference didn't have a choice.
Right.
The fine was more of their choice.
Yeah.
But the 1 game suspension was automatic. Then obviously they said with the disparity, which was only 3. So it was only 3 that they could see that really did something outside of what you're talking about throwing a fist, at least according to what they reviewed. So it was only 3 that got more than what the NCAA requires.
Right.
So I did want to kind of put that out there just to make sure people were clear. I still think it's a fair question.
Yeah.
But let's get back into
that's what I was going to say. How many of these 27s are multi-games? That was the last thing that I was.
It was only 3.
3 that were multi-games. Okay.
3 that were multi-game, which is a good question in terms of it. Charles, get us back into the matchup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think when you take a look at it, you could have knocked me over with a feather, because I did not think Jared Lockhart would have thrown the ball 27 times. That jumped out for me with regards to. I was literally looking at maybe a 12-13 attempt game, and Jackson State running the ball up and down the field.
So you were already fainting. What you telling me?
I was like, whoa, okay.
Whoa, lost the balance there.
Yeah, so
down he goes.
It was kind of interesting. It really went to a quick game, and it proved to be effective. And one of the things I asked TC about was just the fact that he was starting to get the tight ends involved into the offense. So that's another feather in Jared Lockhart's cap in terms of taking what's given. Because a lot of times we just don't see the tight ends utilized a lot within the conference. But I think going forward, I think Jackson State's defense is starting to slowly come together. I think over the past week or so, past couple of weeks, I should say, the secondary has kind of tightened things up a little bit, and they're going to be tested. This is a game where they're going to be tested. I think, AD, you made a great point with regards to who were the 9 for Bethune-Cookman. But regardless, I think that the herd will be thinned out a little bit. But I think overall, Jackson State's running game is just it's too difficult to tame. I mean, they just maul you up front, and that's one of the things even Coach Buckley was telling me today with regards to just dealing with that Jackson State football team. They're big, strong, and they're nasty up front, and they love knocking people down. So you got to go with Jackson State at home.
Let's stay in this segment before we take this break and get this one in since we're on it. Grambling State Tigers come in at 7-3, 4-2. To their credit, they're one game behind Prairie View. When things kind of look slim, they fought themselves up. They got the upset against Jackson State, the biggest win of the season, I would say, at HBCU. Some may argue Delaware State over North Carolina Central. I think that is certainly a contender. But they're up against an old foe, a team that has their numbers in terms of where they play. As Charles has taught me over the years, really good contest. Alcorn State Braves coming at 4-6, 3-3, one of the hottest teams out there in terms of how they're playing. Adding the suspensions, it's even more for Grambling. It's 18. They are playing with the backup redshirt freshman on the road. Can they kind of rein in everybody together and say the world is against them? Sticking with you, Charles, what are your thoughts on this match?
18 is a lot. That is completely thinning out the depth. I have to go with Alcorn at home. I think Alcorn is playing much better football over the past couple of weeks, and you're seeing them look like I think that we thought this Alcorn football team offensively was going to look like over the past couple of weeks. So I got to take the Braves at home.
That's true. Yeah, even with the injury of the starter, the backup has shown that as they seem to do in Brave Country, they just turn them out. Next one, let's go. Wilton, what are your thoughts?
I think this is going to be a close game, even if it wouldn't have been for the suspensions or anything like that. I just think when these two teams play, it's always a tough matchup. And then it's just that time of the year where you're going to get some wacky things that happen. And obviously, Grambling is the better team coming into this matchup, but I definitely think Alcorn gets the win at home. To Charles' point, Alcorn beginning of the season, Jalen Tolbert looks like the quarterback that we now know that he can be. Their rushing attack is really strong. Defense has been making critical plays and getting stops when they need it. So this is a game that I think Alcorn wins, but I definitely think it's going to be a close, like really, really close.
Good stuff. AD Drew?
You know, ever since Alcorn made some reassign some duties amongst the coaching staff, they've gotten on this role here. You've got the two of the hottest teams, two of them State, who is the hottest team in the SWAC right now, coming into this matchup. But I'm going to go back to these suspensions. Where these suspensions may not necessarily affect your starters or your frontline players because you're used to playing one down, everything like that. What I would focus on are the special teams, everybody. Because with that type of depth issue, leads to sloppy special teams because sometimes you've got players who are, you may have been playing special teams as a freshman, and now you're a senior. Now you've got to go back and play on punt coverage or punt return or something like that, or you've got some ancillary roles. It's not necessarily going to be your first 11 on either side. It's going to be those ancillary roles, and Lord Jesus, don't let an ankle, knee, anything else happen where somebody else gets hurt, and you've got to even go deeper into that depth chart. And what I find interesting, both these teams with suspensions are on the road. You know, just by rule, you can only take and dress so many people on the road, but you're usually allowed to dress more if you're at home. So there's some have extra players just dressing and standing on the sideline because they're on the road.
Good points. Way to take it and get into it. Let's take the next break and come back on the other side. If Charles is right, regardless of what Prairie View do, they have locked up the West. If Grambling does not get it done and keep the pressure on, or Prairie View can just lock it up. With that being said, we'll come back on the other side and talk about that preview matchup at number 4. Stick with us.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos on the Black College Sports Network.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
College football in Atlanta on December 13th. MEAC champion, SWAC champion, the 10th Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national. Visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social /empowerment.resources and Instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year. Returning to Atlanta on December 12th, 4 bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned this season. And join us on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
Shout out to T Lover Tabby for doing the intro for the song. Said he wants me to send it. He gonna do a little modification update. I said, don't mess up a good thing, but send it to see what he got going on. With that being said, I know he'll get it right. Arkansas Pine Bluff, as I promised you, we're going to talk about Prairie View coming in at number 4, and they will host the Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions that sit at 3-6, 2-4. Played some good football here. Other times, not so much. But they had Prairie View and the Panthers. They're coming off a big win on the road at Alabama A&M, although the coach was not satisfied with the parts of the trip in the state. It did not take away what they did on the field, even though he said it's part of the reason they started off slow. I was like, ooh, I hate to see if they started off fast. They've come in at 7-3, 5-1. Let me stick with you, Drew. Any reason why this game will be close or won't go in the favor of the Panthers?
The one thing that UAPB has in their favor is that they have the number 4 offense in the SWAC. What they don't have in their favor is they're going up against the number 1 defense in the SWAC. So, hey, I'm trying to find something positive to talk about here, fellas. But they have the number 3 passing offense in the SWAC against the number 1 passing defense in the SWAC. So it's going to be a yin and a yang, a push and a pull. We'll see how that matchup goes. I think that's going to be the key matchup of Arkansas Pine Bluff. They come in, they pass for 2,200 yards. Prairie View A&M's only giving up 1,300 yards. Something's gonna have to give.
Good stuff. Will, you?
I got Prairie View in this game. I just think it's going to be interesting is if Cameron Peters has a game like he had against Alabama State and he throws 4 interceptions. And I don't foresee him doing that again. He bounced back this past weekend and had a strong game. So I don't see him doing that. I just think it's going to be too much Cameron Peters. But more so than anything, the thing that helps Cameron Peters go obviously is the play of one of their running backs in Chase Bateman. We've seen what he's been able to do all season. And then, of course, from any other team in the SWAC, their ability to be able to shut down their opponents. And I just think unless Christian Peters, are we about to get a remix of the Shaw Christian Peters, even though he's done well at UAPB, I just think it's too much Prairie View.
Charles, what direction and how are you looking at this match?
Yeah, I think kind of to echo what Wilton was saying, I think it's huge for Prairie View to get up on this one and kind of let that running game take over. I've said this all season, and I remember when I told you this back in September. They remind me so much of Jackson State last year. They really can run the football in the game. Cameron Peters. You can't have a game like he had against Alabama State with those 4 interceptions. Guess who leads the SWAC in interceptions? UAPB. Who knew? So you got to be able to take care of football. I think that's going to be huge. But again, you rely on that running game, you rely on that defense.
Way to go inside the numbers. I mean, you talked about the matchups and where it could get interesting. So great points by all of you all in terms of how you pulled out components of that to where you keep your eyes on it. With that being said, let's get into the next one and see what you think on this. Any reason that this game will be close? Remember, when we talk about these backup quarterbacks, we got another one coming in for Howard. Howard is on the backup quarterback, and their starting quarterback didn't just play really well. So that gives you some ideas of the concern of the backup quarterback when he didn't even get more reps, when the offense was struggling. Now you get playing against a red-hot Delaware State Hornets team that finds ways to win games different ways. We've seen them being able to run, throw, high-scoring games, low-scoring games. They find a way to get it done. So they have the magic elixir right now. Does anything change when Howard comes to town sitting at 4-6, 1-2? At number 5, Delaware State Hornets 7-3-3-0, as they were playing essentially in that semifinal game before they closed for them. Paul, speaking with you, what are your thoughts on
Howard, they're 4th in the MEAC and stopping the run. They have a heck of a defense to keep you out of the end zone, but I just think Delaware State, they have a formula. They're going to run the football. Interestingly enough, last week, the Morgan State did a really good job of really kind of being a gap sound and really keeping Delaware State from getting that running game up and going. They won over 100 yards again, but like 68 of it came in one play.
Right.
So, you kind of have to, follow that blueprint, but I just think it's a little bit too much Delaware State right now.
To your point, Wilton, your thoughts on this? Howard has shown that they have that type of defense. Morgan State, when both of them struggling offensively, defensively, both teams hadn't brought it in there, and it was one of those rock and stopping games. Can Howard kind of duplicate, as Charles said, what Morgan State was able to do, and at least make this a game? What are your thoughts?
I think they can make the game interesting, specifically in that first half. And I know what Charles was referring to, that first half with Delaware State, Norfolk State. It was basically like a chess match. No team was really able to break apart. So if you're Howard, you're definitely trying to duplicate that experience for you in terms of your defense. But then also, Howard, the Bison would definitely have to force at least 1 or 2 turnovers in this game to really, really keep it close, because we know they're not necessarily going to be scoring a bunch of points in terms of being able to defeat Delaware State. But I just think that the one thing that I think that is truly, truly on Delaware State's side is that we now know that they can win a bunch of games in different ways. We've seen them separated in the second half. We've seen them come away with a last second. Essentially, if the kicker from Morgan State makes that field goal, they lose that game. But the way that they find a way to continue to win games in different ways, I think that helps them. And I think in a pivotal mid-November matchup against a Howard team that's pretty much out of contention for, winning a MEAC championship. They're going to be focused. I think it's just going to be a Delaware State win.
How does Delaware State act as the hunted? I'm really curious over these next few weeks how they react to getting teams best punch, because they're not a secret anymore.
No.
80 Drew, perfect framework. What are your thoughts about that? How does Delaware State handle being a hunted?
How do you handle being there twice as many yards as the rest of the conference? It's a lot easier because you can shorten the game by keeping the ball on the ground and keeping that clock running. That's number one, Charles. Number two, Howard is giving up the second most rushing yards in the conference. So let's look at some of these different dynamics. Delaware State, if you actually stay with your game plan and don't try to go for the knockout blow in the first quarter like you did against Morgan State, and actually stay with the script, you run away with this. But Delaware State last game, I think they were starting to smell themselves and start to read some of their own press clippings and almost got caught. Were it not for a failed 2-point conversion, we've got a totally different ball game there yesterday. Here's one thing I've noticed. Delaware State, number 2 offense in the MEAC, 1/10 of a point behind North Carolina Central. Howard has the number 1 defense in the MEAC. So once again, you got some yin and some yang. Delaware State, the number 2 defense against Howard, who has the worst. Strictly speaking, Howard don't have a prayer. Eye test, Howard don't have a prayer. Drew test, Howard don't have a prayer.
Man, you're not nice. I like it though. Let's move on.
Oh, one last thing. No matter what happens this week, everybody, Delaware State cannot win the MEAC this week. It will come down to the Delaware State, South Carolina State, win, lose, or draw this week with Delaware State, no matter what they do.
Very, very true. Which gets us in our next matchup before we take our final break. And we'll just come back and highlight some games in the next segment to just to kind of close things out. So we get a chance to really talk through this. This is a big matchup. 3 versus 6, top 7, true top 7 ranked teams. South Carolina State Bulldogs coming in 7-3, 3-0. At number 6, North Carolina Central Eagles 7-3, 2-1. Both of these teams have been solid over the years. Last couple of years, before the matchup they had that went down the wire, that was a classic game in Orangeburg. The matchups with Eagles that have been there for a while with Howard. And before that, South Carolina State, had the run. So they've been in the mix here. So it's fascinating to see what your thoughts on this. May get into some tiebreaker scenarios. Kind of Drew talked about the fact that the Eagles have to have this game to stay in the race. It does not put the Bulldogs out. But if they get this, they play for it, simply play for it all if they get this victory. If they don't, it gets in a 3-way tie breaker if they also find a way to win and get it done against Delaware State, even though they lose today. And you know how that may go down. But in terms of this matchup, I'm going to go with you, Wilton, first. What are your thoughts in terms of the Bulldogs versus the Eagles?
Doc, this is a game that I feel like it's going to have like down to the wire vibes. Like you got 2 teams, both physical, both can score, both can defend. We know that. You have 2 teams coming in that have been playing essentially great football. You've seen William Atkins IV for South Carolina State emerge as their major signal caller. We know their rushing attack with Tyler Smith and obviously with North Carolina Central, everything starts and begins with Walker Harris and Chris Mosley. But I think that when I say like down to the wire, think like for all the controversy that people said between like say Jack State and Alabama State, that how the game ended, I can easily see this game coming down to a final play, whether it's special teams, whether it's a stop. I just feel like neither team is going to be able to separate much throughout the entire game. I mean, you're talking about 2 great coaches, Trey Oliver and Tennis Berry, that are going to be, they've already been instilling in their players all week not only what this game means, but just more so the opponent that they're about to face on the field. Like these are two teams that just truly one pretty much kind of controls more of their own destiny. And North Carolina Central, you lose this game, you pretty much done. So
no, it ain't no pretty much. It's over.
Exactly.
South Carolina State gets a mulligan, no matter what.
Like how Vince Carter says, like
right.
It's done. It's over with.
Right.
So I just think that this is going to be a good game, but I think I'm going to give the edge to South Carolina State. It's kind of hard for me to say that, but I think I'm going to get an edge to South Carolina State.
I like that. He says it's kind of hard, but that's where I'm going. Like I said, I'll be here for this matchup. Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of what I may see live in person when I see the Bulldogs take on the Eagles?
What I want you to do, Dr. Cavil, this is a game where we got to look for hidden yardage. What do I mean by hidden yardage? You look at stats like punts, punt returns, kickoff returns. Those are hidden yardages. When you may be looking at a 5-6 yard difference on what the two punters for these teams do. That's going to make a difference over the course of a game. Same thing on a kickoff return. If somebody's getting the extra 5 yards on a kickoff return versus the other team, those little hidden yardages make difference. Advantage in all those categories that I was just talking about go to North Carolina Central. Here's another one. Hidden yardage category. Penalties. North Carolina Central on the season, 64 penalties, 639 yards. That's a 63.9 per game average. South Carolina State, 90 penalties, 79 yards, 79 yards per game. Once again, hidden yardage, penalties. So let's look at some of those type of stats right here that will make the difference in what otherwise on paper is a statistically even game, Dr. Cavil. Slight advantage, North Carolina Central on the hidden yardage.
Good stuff. Charles, close this out on this segment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, AD took all the meat off the bone on all the hidden yard stuff because I done looked all over the place.
I had to find something.
I mean, they 2-3 on a bunch of stuff. I mean, fumbles, forced, fumbles. It's so much hidden yard stuff. And finally, for me, it just comes down to, I think Chennisberry has Trey Oliver's number, and I got to go with South Carolina State in that regards.
Now, listen to this. This is 2024, so it may be updated, but for a 3-way tiebreaker, and I'm doing this for AD Drew because he likes chaos. If a tie still exists, then the following shall be used when you talk about your tiebreaker. If there is a 3-way tie between 3 teams in the MEAC, they use this. 6 points will be awarded for a win against a non-conference Division I FBS team. 4 points will be awarded for a win against a non-conference Division I FCS team. 4 points will be subtracted for a loss against a non-Division I opponent. And the team with the highest points total shall receive the berth to the Celebration Bowl. So I'm going to let y'all during the break.
Can I give you the answer? I already know the answer.
Calculator, your Sputnik, your slide.
I already got the answer.
Your Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to let y'all calculate that, and maybe y'all can tell me on the other side of the break as we just will list those matchups and see if anything stands up for you. But let's take our last break and give you those updates after the break.
Greetings, Panthers. My name is Roland Austin, and I'm one of the directors at the 1876 Athletic Foundation. The 1876 Athletic Foundation was formed to promote the success of all 343 student athletes. Our overall goal is to fund scholarships for all of our student athletes. We ask that you help us in achieving this goal by donating to the 1876 Athletic Foundation via the QR code below or 1876.foundation. Your generous donation will help us continue to assist the needs of all of our Panther athletes. Thanks, and go Panthers.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year, a title reserved for elite HBCU marching bands. A season-long competition that culminates in Atlanta on Friday, December 12th. Drum majors, percussion, drill, auxiliaries, musicality. All aspects will be examined by the toughest judges in the world of college bands. 4 will qualify for the big stage, where national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us in Atlanta on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and I'm trying to count out Division I wins. I got 3 apiece for Central and South Carolina State, and I'm doing my Delaware State now. Win over Albany, that's 1. A win over St. Francis, that's 2. So that's maybe it's going to go to, I don't know if they go back to the head-to-head tiebreaker, but Delaware State only has 2 D1 wins.
Right. North Carolina.
The other ones have 3. And so this game may be bigger than we think, particularly if Central can get it done. I wonder if it goes back to head-to-head, maybe it's Central. And I'm just pondering this. I had not looked deep, and I just gave you an update. So we're talking live, going through it. Drew, did you want to add anything that you may have seen during the break?
From the calculations that we've been following with one of the people who I'm doing work with, in a 3-way tie, a 3-way tie is the only way Central can get in.
Wow.
Central winds up with more points with using that formula with the D1s and then subtracting out the other stuff. I can't remember the exact number, but we figured it out. 3-way tie goes to Central. If Central loses this week, then obviously it comes down to the head-to-head next week between South Carolina State and Delaware State. So yeah, obviously with the work that I do with ESPN Events, we are monitoring this whole thing. You know, we know what it's going to take for Jackson State to get there, for Alabama State to get there. We knew Saturday night that Prairie View was magic number was 1, that either being a win or a Grambling loss. We've got it pretty much figured out for each of these different scenarios, because we have to figure out which fan base that we have to market towards. So
yeah, that's part of the business. So thank you for providing additional clarity. I'm not sure I've heard anybody else talk about it, but hopefully they have. But if not, I know one thing: it just made that game tomorrow, for me at least, go up a notch in terms of what's going on. Yeah. It is truly a de facto semifinal championship game.
Dr. Cavil, you must not watch D2 Wednesdays on HBCU game day.
I do sometimes, but I miss it at times. But, you know,
and Jamie Walker said that, and I hate that he called me out like that. He's like, if I need a stat, I'm calling Drew.
Right. He's right.
Unfortunately, I'm the stat nerd. If I don't have it already, I'll find it for you.
That's just because your mind is made up of chaos, as Charles likes to say. So
he
chaos.
loves.
You can't introduce chaos and not have it figured out. So good. But let's get into it. Again, we won't break down these games, and we gave you the highlights, but I just want to put them out there, and you're welcome to say if any of them kind of stand out to you or which one you quietly have your eyes on and why. We have number 10, Texas Southern Tigers are sitting at 4-5, 3-3. At Southern Jaguars 1-9, 0-6. Obviously, the Jaguars are looking a way to get a little bit of that pain. They do not want to go 0-8 in terms of conference play, and they rather try to do it now than the Grambling team that would maybe be possible without 3 players when they play this game, or should have everybody back actually in terms of when that goes down. Tigers are trying to fight for a winning season. The next one I want you to look at is FAMU, as they are fighting to see if they can close out with a winning season, and that would have to come of getting this game and then beating the rival that is still playing pretty good football. Obviously, we talked about how things are challenging this week, but the Rattlers at number 9 come in at 4-5, 3-2. They're the Alabama Bulldogs that are down to their 4th seed quarterback. Somehow the Bulldogs can pull this out and find the last one to get it 500 in terms of how they see would be a solid at least close to the season in terms of making that type of statement. So there's some interest maybe you all have there. We talked about the Grambling matchup. Let me get the last ones in, and then I'll let you pull wherever you want to go, which is Morgan State Bears at Norfolk. This game is really about the fact that somebody's going to get the first conference win. Both teams coming 0-3, and obviously when you've had this tough type of season, particularly with Norfolk State with just 1 win, or Morgan State Bears even, somebody really wants this win because it's going to make it feel just a little bit better. We talked about these in details, but I thought it was important if we bring them back up. At the mid-major level, you have a championship game in the SIAC. Number 4, Benedict Tigers, 9-1, 7-1 at Albany State Golden Rams at 9-1, 8-0. We talked about the fact that all of y'all picked Golden Rams. Obviously, AD was not there, and because of his role in SIC, we won't make him do that. But this does have playoff implications. We're looking for both teams to play well and both teams to get in. Obviously, the winner is in. Similar in the CIAA, we got Johnson C. Smith Golden Bulls sit at 9-1, 6-1. Virginia Union Panthers at 9-1, 7-0. Like the other game, we had 4 versus 1. This one we have 2 versus 3. So good matchups in terms of teams that have finished strong. Obviously, Golden Bulls at the Panthers. Panthers, much like Golden Rams, this is, and both of these games are matchups of previous games with the Golden Rams winning the first one, much like the Panthers defeated Johnson C. Smith. So fascinating there. And then we added the game that is a matchup between the SIAC and the Carolina Conference matchup agreement that was made for 2 years. We'll see this again next year. The SIAC teams will be on the road to the Coastal Conference. Shorter Hawks come in at 2-8, 1-5. Kentucky State Thoroughbreds 5 in our mid-major ring and come in at 8-2, 7-1. Certainly want to get it done to get the matchup. With those games being said, any of those games stand out to you, Charles? What stands out? Any one of them that you kind of look at more than other?
Texas Southern at Southern, just from the standpoint of Chris Dishman made a statement this past week at the weekly press conference, just wanting them to get the right guys in who are all into the system. So it's like, I had to kind of look up when he made that statement, how disheartening were the last 2 losses versus Alcorn and Alabama State.
That's good. I wonder how much of that has changed. I got a chance to talk to him today, go over there and just check on him in the program. Seemed a little more upbeat, had an interview was going on, getting prepared for the game. And he talked about the fact that he's looking at the fact that now he's realizing still having a winning season, and that's his focus, sending the seniors out right next game. But to get to that, they need to get this game. So good points that you make in terms of where are the players when you see that and thoughts of that. Wilton, what of those games kind of captures your eye and why?
Really a little bit of all of them, at least most of all of them. Texas Southern,
true media person. He can,
hey.
I need it all.
I'm just saying, but
you're telling the truth. That's what
let me give you some insight on one of them that has nothing to do with football. I don't know if y'all been paying attention to the ESPN Band of the Year rankings, but Texas Southern and Southern, if I'm not mistaken, are in the top 5. So if you love the band, like you're gonna have a good band competition between Texas Southern and Southern. But obviously, to Charles' point, you want to
see to really hype it up in Mother Way and throw a slug at the same time.
I'm just saying, as a person who loves like good marching
band, that's a 2-minute timeout.
Really nice.
Leave after the bands.
Exactly. But this is a game that I think Texas Southern.
Talking about winning season, Southern may even get their one win. He's like, band of the year.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm giving AD Drew a shameless plug for what they
You
do.
can make John Grant proud, Wilton.
Hey. But no, I think this is a Texas Southern game that they need to win, mainly due to the point of what Charles was talking about, and even you too, Doc, about what Chris Dishman wanting to finish the season strong. And this is a Southern team. Then let's just keep it real. And we talk about it all the time. And I'm biased toward the fact that I like to think that when Southern is good and the swag is good, but this is not a good Southern team. And this is a game that Texas Southern absolutely needs to have and can win. With FAMU, it's a situation of like, can Cozy end on a good note? Well, I know it's not their last game, but can they continue to end the season on a good note? As far as like SIAC and CIAA championships, I mean, man, you talk about championship football, it's going to be an exciting weekend of ball. I know I chose not Johnson C. Smith. I chose
Virginia Union.
Yeah. I chose Virginia Union, but I can't wait to watch that game.
Hey, you sold it though. I picked on you, but the rationale that you did in terms of why, hey man, I got my eyes all on this. You figured out a way to make multiple games interesting. Good job with that. 80 Drew, I'll let you have the last point and close and tell me which one has your eyes on it and why.
Anytime our 1890 institutions get together, as somebody who got their degree from an ag school, I've got to have a little bit of interest in that. If y'all don't know what 1890s is, go out and Google that.
There you go. Tell them.
All right. That's number one. Texas Southern on a downward spiral. Hopefully they can get it right. But what would Texas Southern be if they would have dropped this game to Southern? That would change a different perspective from a team that we thought was going to challenge Prairie View for
3 weeks. They were right there.
3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
So you're right.
To lose it to a winless Southern. What would we be talking about on Sunday if that was going to happen?
Good point.
Another one. I want to focus on Kentucky State. Okay. Kentucky State obviously is playing a shorter team that is on paper is not as good as them. A Kentucky State blowout victory and a Benedict loss to the same opponent twice, you could see a shift in the Super Region 2 playoff scenarios where Kentucky State could actually surpass Benedict, even though Benedict just played in the championship game. So let's keep an eye on Sunday night, 6:00 NCAA.com and see how these teams play out, because not only are these teams playing for conference championships,
seeding,
they also playing for seeding. Kentucky State not playing for a conference championship, but still playing for seeding while trying not to get anybody hurt in this game, because that, and if the seedings fall right, dare I say it, you could wind up seeing an Albany State and Benedict playing next week also if the seedings fall right. I hope they don't do anything like that, but you could see something spooky like that, or they could be playing. I would make one bold prediction. There will be a SIAC on SIAC matchup in Super Region 2 in round 1. Bold prediction. I don't know who, but it will be something. They got to get rid of one of us.
Good point. I will say this: I am disappointed, Wilton, that you couldn't, since you did all the rest of them, you couldn't find a way to find a reason that you wanted to see Bears versus Spartans for the first conference win. You can leave it. He said, I'm good.
I like the Spartan Legion.
See, Charles, you get it. You with me.
In the donut bowl. Both of them got the big old donuts on their record.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
somebody wants to get it off.
Green gold. I like that.
I mean, I'm over the fact that hey, Michael Vick is the coach. I mean, that's just right.
Wow, y'all cold-blooded. With that being said, thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, come from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as well as Wilton Jackson, the second AD Drew, Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We'll be here back on Sunday. That is 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Give you the updates. We talked about it. We'll let you know what actually happened on Sunday morning. Give you a chance to get your HBCU football talk in before you end up to church. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. It's DrKenyattaCavil. It's DrKenyattaCavil. Threads, Facebook, Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Horse.
Wilton.
Lecture.
AD.
Dismissed.